to 32 when I joined UTC as I was already in the faculty and I was just a layperson. And at that time I hadn't even decided whether to be ordained or not. So our friendship goes way back even before I decided to be ordained or not. How many of you have looked in your mirror this morning before you got dressed up, made up and all those kind of things? Okay, hold that thought. We'll come back to that later. When we think about who am I, what do you think? Yes, always the answer comes in response to who am I speaking to. If I speak to somebody in my village in Kerala, I'll be immediately referring to where I put your name. So I always have a reference to my genealogy. If I was talking to one of the delegates in WCC conference, immediately I will say, why am I a from the Indian Orthodox Church? Or if I am referring to one of my colleagues or alumni friends from UTC, I'll be saying that I was in the 86 BD batch. So all of us will have something called Amartya's and the famous economists say, multiplicity of identities. Each of you will have it, even though we may not be recognizing it. It all depends on whom you are talking to, what you are referring to, all these kind of situations. And our own self-perception, who am I, changes accordingly. See, most of the time if you find somebody who having met before here in this meeting itself, most probably you will be referring to your parish, because that is one of your primary identities in this group. Or if it's an inter-diocese where you will be saying that, oh, I am from Northeastern Indian diocese. Then it might narrow down to, then you might refer to the parish and then to the house, and finally, being Malayalis, you will find out somebody who is connected and all those kind of things. Almost each one of us are related. That's good. That's a good way. We all of us have that common identity to refer to who am I. So it starts with the basic question, how do we all perceive ourselves? Great philosophers have raised this question. And very few have come up with an answer. Maybe most of them ended up having raising the question, not answering. And philosophically, that's a good thing. We keep on raising questions. It doesn't mean that every time you raise a question, there is an answer. Because when you don't have an answer, you will question further. That's one problem with people who always look in the Bible for an answer. Because what happens is they perceive Holy Spirit has returned after writing of the Bible. And so that's why we insist on the living presence of Holy Spirit in the church. So how are we going to perceive? How am I going to? So most of the time, as I referred earlier, when you looked into the mirror when you got up, that is not the greatest perception you have of yourself. And being a person who doesn't use mirror as much, because I don't have much of a use for it. Because I don't have to wear makeup. I don't have much hair to comb. And all I have to do is comb my beard. Recently while I was in the Ayurvedic treatment, I have been there for a few days, and then one day the housekeeping came and so Tirumeni, we had to fix the mirror. I think there is no mirror in the bathroom. That is when I noticed that there was no mirror. And not belittling those people who look into the mirror. Because what I am saying is, many times, what we see is not what we like. What we see about ourselves. So we try to create different kinds of images. And multi-billion-dollar industry has developed out of our lack of self-respect to what we are. All those kind of fashion industry and all those diet foods. Because it all depends on, I don't like who I am. Because we want to be somebody else, if not somebody else, something else, or a different form of myself. So the next phase is not even the diet or the makeup, you will go to the plastic surgery. So if we try to recreate what we are, but does it help? I'm not against any of these things. If you feel like putting a makeup, go ahead and do it. If that makes you feel good, go ahead and do it. But at the same time, you have to think why you are doing it. And not suggesting that you walk around looking shabby around the city or go to school or whatever. But have a conscious position on how do I perceive myself. And within this multiplicity of identities, as I said, almost all of us have there's some kind of genealogical identity. And it's interestingly, if you take almost any civil Christian family from India, from Kerala, they will trace back to 4 Brahmin families in 1st century. Because there's a different question whether there were Brahmins in India at that time. But somehow we trace it back to that. That's one thing. And then we all have our professional identities or your studies identity. You want to project yourself as a brilliant student, even if you are not. I was not a great student. Actually, I was worried about when Korea started introducing me and started off saying that we go a long way back. I was worried he is going to say all those things about me in the college. So, these are the issues we deal with ourselves. It's very internal, very private. We may not even share it with others. And many things contribute this formation of our own identity or this multiplicity of identity. As I mentioned earlier, so it will depend on where you are. If you are in a professional setting, you will be immediately referring to as your professional position. So I am the X in that department or something like that. Or in your school, I am studying for that in which grade or in this department or 3rd year, 4th year or whatever it is. That is particularly at that moment. So all this identity this is not long-lasting identities, except maybe your family or genealogical identity. All other identities are transient. You cannot say that you are in 5th grade after when you are in 6th grade. You cannot say that you are studying in high school when you are already in college or when you are in a professional career. Because that identity of yours has changed. You have brought in a new identity. So, but within all those identities, there is an undercurrent identity which is you. And that is our question, who am I? And many times, the Indian philosophers has come out with saying, I think the Greek theologians say the apophatic theology. You can define it only by negating. You can say that, are you X? Yes, but no. I'm not just that alone. So almost every definition you say will have something else to add to. And that's why the Indian philosophers say it's so finally they attach it to Brahma and say that they call it Nirguna. And Nirguna in Malayalam when it comes like, it's a hopeless character without any goodness. But actually the word means without any qualifications, I would say. You cannot, it's an indefinable thing. That when you say God is love, the question will be, is it love alone? Or are you limiting God with love? So then they say, okay, so love, according to the philosopher, it's a guna, and nirguna means you are not limiting God to that particular guna. So, similarly, when you ask a question about yourself, are you a student? Yes. But are you only a student? No. Are you a child of X and Y? Yes. Are you only that? No. Are you an engineer, doctor, whatever your profession was? So all these will have something more to add or something less. Even with your looks. So that's where your self-perception becomes very important. And then we are all worried about how others perceive. Isn't it? Otherwise, we wouldn't be reading all the gossip columns in the newspaper. It's not only us. Jesus had this. He was asking his disciples, who do people say I am? I don't think that he had any problem of self-perception. He knew who he was really. But he was asking his disciples, how do people perceive me? How do they look at me? And they have a lot of answers. So many things. That you are one of the prophets, you are one of the dead prophets who have come back to life. You are the prophet who went to heaven, who came down from heaven. All sorts of answers. The gospel narrator says only few. I can believe that there were 12 and there could be at least 12. But then he asked that question, what do you see? And then Peter comes out with the answer and that, that story. I'm not referring to the theological positions of the Christology of what Jesus was saying. It is about how we are worried about how others perceive us. And this is related to our self-perception. Because when we have a wrong or a bad perception of ourselves, what do we end up doing? We want to project what we are not. No, it's not good. See, Malayalam is a proverb, Kaka Pulja Kokka. So can you follow? So if you loosely transfer it, if a crow takes a bath, does it become a swine? So many times this is what happens with us. Or even vice versa. You could be really beautiful, and sometimes after all there is a joke about a bishop who was doing a wedding. It was heavily made of bride. And the bishop felt that she was looking really horrible with all the makeup. I don't know why he had to make that comment. But then he made the comment saying that to the audience or the congregation, said, don't worry. She looks such a horrible thing just because of the makeup. She's really a beautiful girl. I can see her without It was an uncalled for comment. But sometimes, even though I don't say it aloud, there are several times I have felt it. Because I have seen these people, really beautiful, nice people, create those sorts of multi-layers of, I would say, putty and paint. And look horrible. Maybe it's my perception of the world. I don't share it with them. But what I'm saying is that we buy into others' ideas. Because we don't have a good self-perception, we say that we try to get influenced by others. We ask our friends, do I look nice in it? Do I do this? And some friends might even say, precisely because she or he looks bad at it, oh, it's really nice. So that way. So all these things. And sometimes I have seen that little kids, that's cute at that time. Little kids, do I look nice? But after some time it doesn't look that cute. Because when I hear a 20-year-old coming and say, do I look nice? Because then most probably I should say that she needs a counseling, not like that. Because it's some kind of lack of confidence, I would say. And almost there are umpteen number of jokes about husbands trying to say nice things to wives. It could be very belittling to women as I hold all those jokes, but sometimes I think that husband is trying to be correct, but whatever he says becomes wrong. It's funny to watch, but all this projects to our lack of self-respect and proper self-perception, I would say. Could be because I am not married, I am not interacting with women at such a closer level, I could say all those things with the stage and go away. I don't have to live with the repercussions of saying all those things. But asking about the perception of other people, one thing we should ask is, are we projecting our real self to them? Because many times we hide our face or real personality and project something what we want others to see, and then ask a perception or evaluation of that projected personality. And there what happens? We start with lying to ourselves, and then we project that lie to outside, and then we ask others to evaluate that lie we are projecting to others. So it is totally a facade. There is no element of truth in it or genuineness in it. So then we have to question, what am I covering up? Recently I watched a TED talk. There's a casual reference about, actually that talk really made me worry, because she was referring to a technology that could read our thoughts. It will be really not a good idea, I would say. If I am sitting in a Mudiyog and people can read what I am thinking about all those people who are saying nasty things about Achan or somebody else or even me or all those things. So that's a bad idea. But many times, that's one thing about Bhattavasan, if you are interacted with Jose. He didn't have a masala. If you want, he had in mind, he will just say whether we like it or not, and he just forgets. If you ask him, why did you say that it was that good? Did I say something bad? Because he was such a person with such an integrity, he didn't have those kind of multiple personalities. And even it doesn't matter to him who he was talking to. Whether it is in Holy Spirit, to Baba Devani, or whoever it is, he will just say whatever it was in his mind. And many of us are not able to do that. Of course, Tirumani could get away with it. Many of us don't think that we will be able to live with the repercussions that would cause. So, for others to have a better perception of ourselves, we have to have a good perception. Not even, I don't want to modify saying like good, but we have to have a proper perception of ourselves. What is truly, or who truly I am? I'm not talking about the theological implications that I will come to later. But so here, once you have a proper self-perception, or you understand who you truly are, with that understanding, immediately you can start working. Okay, X, Y, Z, these are the problems I think I have. Most of the time we try to justify our problems. We'll say, oh, everybody is like that. And we'll say, others do this. Or we'll say, it is legally permissible. Or many of these, or the value system of the current society accept that. So we become people without any moral standards. We don't have an angle to anchor our life. So we become like what I call floating beings. If the wave moves that way, it will go that way. If it goes this way, it will go this way. It is not anchored in anything. And because of that, we cover ourselves up. And the most dangerous thing, after some time of covering up, you start believing what you are not. That's also a dangerous thing. Because you live a life and trying to make others believe what you are not. And after some time, you even forget what you are. Of course, Dalai Lama says that it could be a good thing also. If you are not compassionate, just act compassionate. And when you have acted compassionate long enough, you become compassionate. It may be good at that compassionate or those kind of level. But most of the things we end up doing, we don't want to be like that. So, there may be something you should start thinking. First of all, as I said earlier, how do I perceive? And why do I want others to perceive me like that? I don't even ask you to change how you want others to perceive me or others' perception of yourself. What I am asking is, ask yourself the question, why I want others to perceive me in a different way. There could be, if it is a positive perception you want others to have of you, there could be two ways of handling it. One, you could just make a conscious effort to be that positive person you want others to perceive. Then you don't have to live that double life. A life of cover-up, it's a stress. And being children who grew up or growing up in Indian families in a different culture, I know that you already have that dual personality. I understand that because of the value systems and all those kind of things. Along with that, you don't want another stress of covering up to others as well as yourself. So try to become genuinely what you want others to perceive. And also, make sure you choose your friends very carefully because that influences the perception of others. Because if you have good friends, most probably they will be saying, no, that is not something we do. Or we want to. Instead of saying, come on, let us go and have a drink or have a smoke or whatever it is. I don't know what is the current thing in India. In India, when I went back there, this year the Manorama newspaper got a long series of articles about marijuana in the Indian school. They are talking about 8th grades, 9th grades. Then I was telling, this is not anything new. This was available in the schools around where I studied. The shops around I studied, but it was always a choice of what you want or what you didn't do. Because don't think that the stress you are going through is not something your parents have gone through. Maybe in a different form. Generation gap is something universal. Almost every generation went through this stress, but maybe for different reasons. But within that context, that was a big stress. I could imagine hundreds of arguments I had with my father. And if an outsider watched it, they might think that my father is going to kill me soon. So, these are the stresses we all went. But then again, I want to come back to our own idea. Because all this happens when we don't have a correct perception of our world. Because the lack of proper perception makes us project differently. So you want to do something to your parents, you want to be something else in the church, and you want to be something else to your friends. All this kind of thing, this multiplicity will only stress you more. It is not going to help you in any way. So you have to come back to what I am genuinely. And Bible gives us a proper answer to that. And even though I said earlier that don't look for answers to all modern problems into the Bible, it will be the wrong place. Bible can give you pointers, but if you take the verse in the Bible and say that what you have to do, I hope, I don't know whether you have heard the joke. There was a guy who always looked into the Bible for guidance, and finally one day he looked into the Bible and he came up with the verse, Judas went and hanged himself. So then he thought, that's not a good word. So he tried it again, and then he discovered do likewise. And then he tried the third time. He said, okay, let us fix the third time. He said, now is the time. So it could be really dangerous taking those kind of wrong use of Bible. But now I have a lot of problems with the Old Testament image of God, especially with our modern sensitivity. If you read through Leviticus and all those kind of things, we have a lot of problems. But when there's a beautiful story, the creation story. And then God created them in His image. So that I would say is unchangeable identity of human being. Whatever you say, whatever you project yourself, even the most evil person in the world, still he or she has that image in God in him or her. Because the lot of cover-up has taken place, as I was saying, the projections and what with the wrong perceptions. But still, every human being is in that image of God. And now, come back to the first question I asked. That when you looked into the mirror in this morning, without any makeup, without even dressing up, without most probably, as soon as you got up, while brushing your teeth, you might have been doing it in front of the mirror. You had a vision of yourself. And can you imagine that is God? It could be a scary thought, right? If that is God, oh my God, how am I going to worship that God? But remember, it is not that lipsticks or hairspray or all the makeup or whatever you use. When I say these things, don't think that I am against these kind of things, it's up to you. But I'm just saying that it is beyond what we put on ourselves. Our inherent image, our inherent identity, what we are, is that image of God. How do Indians greet each other? And now we say, have you seen this? Of course, there are other reasons, but other explanations, but there is a very truly theological explanation explanation of greeting each other with a namaskar. It is, I bow to the image of God in you. It is not a hand or a hug. That's a good explanation, but the bad explanation is, in the Indian tradition, you know the caste system and untouchable. So you don't want to touch somebody whom you don't know to which caste he belongs. So you have a safe thing doing this. You don't give the safe distance. But the other thing, I feel that it is a genuinely good tradition. That acknowledging whenever you see somebody else, it doesn't matter to what religion or what profession or anything. A basic greeting is this: I bow to the divinity in you. And this is a beautiful acknowledgement. At the same time, a projection. So what happens to us when somebody else acknowledges our divinity? See, when somebody else looks at you and sees the image of God in you and acknowledges that, most of us would feel that somehow, at least slightly, we have to live up to that expectation. Again, coming back to Fr.Johnson, he will, whenever somebody asks a reference letter from him, he will give an excellent letter, even if that person is not that great. And his explanation was, and he will show it to them, I have written this. And his explanation was, now they have to live up to what I have written. I think it's a good way of looking at it. When you start treating others nicely, it is not because they behave nicely. It is not because they look nice, they are the most fashionable or the coolest or what is the current phrase you use, I don't know. Whatever it is not because of any of that reason. Because I see the image of God in you. And when you acknowledge the image of God in somebody else, it also reflects the image of God in yourself. That shining of image of God is, it takes that, it's a thing I got it from you. This acknowledgement is something that makes us do it. And don't think that we can see this only in the good people. Okay, the good people, the saying that I'm not supposed to drink this, but being sick I can do it. What was I saying? Okay, go on. Yeah, when we acknowledge others, and also when we acknowledge that image of God in ourselves, it will be very interesting to see how we start behaving like a God. So what are the qualities you see in God? All powerful, wrathful, punishing you, beating you up. Is it? So what are the qualities of God you would see or you would think about? When you think about God, what is the image you have or what is the qualities of what is the vision you have? What? Love, forgiveness, patience. It just says that my time is up. 35 minutes. Patience. What else? Okay. Now, what prevents you from practicing any of it? See, my question is not about to be image of God. You have beautiful images of God. love, patience, forgiveness. And what I am saying is, you have that ability to be that God. God has given you the potentialities and the ability. That is why He is saying, you are, that is why in the Genesis story He is saying that you are in the image of God. And why did God give you the abilities and not make you do that? Because God could have, when during the creation, He could have created us in such a way that we don't have the ability to not to forgive, or we don't have the ability to hate. Because without a choice, we cannot be image of God. Because many times you see that among the animal kingdom, very few animals have choice. They are programmed to behave in such a way. When it's hungry, if there is food available, it will eat. A cow doesn't say, no, it's Lent, I am fasting. Why? Because it's not programmed to make choices. So the only way to make a cow fast is not to feed it, right? And that is precisely why we are the image of God. We have the choice of hating or loving. We have the choice of forgiving or not forgiving. And that image demands us to choose love, forgiveness, and all those nice qualities you have been saying. So now, for you to think, now you have to turn back and think, what prevents you from doing it? You have the ability. Nobody is prosecuting you for not loving somebody. And this is it. So you are the image of God. So when you come to answer that question, who am I? You are that image with the full potentiality of becoming that. And if you, and also remember, when you don't become, you not only give a wrong image about yourself, you make others have a wrong image of God itself. If you have that, you are that mean, hateful person, others could think of God as that mean, hateful person. So that's why sometimes when you grow up in really disturbed family, you have all these mean images of others. And we have that responsibility. Because people, only great saints have that direct relationship with God. All others, we are mortal, normal human beings, experience God through other people, other human beings. And it is our responsibility to make that experience a genuine, positive, God bless you. Thank you.